In a story called Full Court Press, Ike Swetlitz of the Searchlight New Mexico website reports the state's Court of Appeals has a massive backlog of cases, at least 450 of them as we stand. The old saying goes, justice delayed is justice denied. Ike highlighted a criminal appeal that has been filed 10 months earlier with zero action. That means the appellant is in prison just waiting for the paperwork to get moving. And Serge, it's a very disturbing story about how things are, there's many prongs why this is happening. But first of all, what is the Court of Appeals? What do they handle for folks who are not tied up in the legal world? What exactly do they do there?
Sure. So the Court of Appeals is not a trial court where you go and raise objections and put on evidence. The idea is that the Court of Appeals addresses whether the trial court or a lower court of some sort, administrative body, got the law wrong. So they do what we lawyers like to, at the law school anyway, think of as the real lawyering, the policy part of lawyering, and the thoughtful of what does the law say, what does it actually mean, how does it apply to this case. And so it's a real important body to shape the way we interpret the laws that we have in New Mexico. Excuse me. And their job is to really make sure that there's clarity on important issues and address if something keeps coming up to say, okay, we need to weigh in on this.
The clear takeaway was money is a big factor. There's just not enough money. And is it just that, or is it more than money that's causing this problem, these backlogs?
I mean, money is obviously a huge part, right? They're understaffed. They could probably use a few more judges. But there's also more cases being filed, right? Far be it for me to suggest that lawyers are doing anything wrong ever, but we, we're seeing.
Went through your class.
Exactly, not of mine. But there's the backlog that they have, right? There's not enough people to deal with what they currently have, but there's also more stuff coming down than has historically been coming down the road, and so obviously that's going to lead to tough choices, and we either have to make it up on the front end or the back end or somewhere.
Senator Snyder, it was interesting to read this in that the idea that it's kind of a behind-the-scenes thing a lot of us are just not privy to. It's very interesting to kind of read this. But it seems clear staff issues are a big part of it and connected to the money issue. How do we fix something like that? It just seems very difficult when you read this from the outside looking in. If you're not going to have the money, how do you fix the staff problems? Then how do you fix the other problems that follow along?
When I was in, money is clearly a problem. And the thing is, it goes back to when I was in the legislature. I remember in 2001 and 2002, there was a great discussion about the courts had been given minimal amounts of money. They were so far behind. Education had been given tremendous increases. Judges had not even been given salary increases. And that means if the judges aren't getting them, your staff probably isn't either. So it's a problem that's building on its history. I do know there was a request put in. What I don't know, because I haven't seen the final version of House Bill 2, is whether there was a request put in for additional money for the courts. So hopefully the appeals court is one that gets it. The thing that fascinated me is, and I'm not an attorney, is the calendaring process. Is that's how you determine that you're ready to go before and be considered. And as I recall, they took some of the staff who was doing the calendaring to move into other areas, so that put them even further behind. So I think you're absolutely right. We need a couple more judges would be my suggestion, and certainly you need more staff. You shouldn't be taking staff from doing one important job and putting them in another position. So I think it's time we bit the bullet, we being the legislature, and said, if we're going to have a fair judicial system, we have to support them. And I think that's what they need to do.
Lieutenant Governor, what the Senator just described, it only took a mere matter of months for this thing to fall off the end of the table once that switching around of staff from the front end of calendaring, handling like 900 appeals a year. When you really think about that, that's amazing. Kind of splitting them between the easy ones and the hard ones, and then moving that staff to deal with the judges on the hard ones, it left the front end of the pipeline completely vulnerable. And anyone could have seen this coming, it seems to me, but somehow it just didn't get dealt with. What's your sense of why we haven't gotten it after this?
I think when we talk about the judges themselves, think of the turnover we've had in judges. And I personally know some judges who got those jobs and then were surprised what the job really was.
Oh, no kidding.
Which is reading and listening to oral arguments. And it's not so much, they don't think about it. They have to, it's really a lot of on-the-job training unless they've spent a lot of time at the appeals court. And I don't know that we're getting all the best quality people, because when you think about what's happened to the judicial, that I think is really important is, first of all, the pay scale has been low compared to states around us, as well as to the private sector.
Right.
So good lawyers in the private sector who are well respected by their peers, who are people that that you want to apply for judge, they may look at that and say, well, I'm not going to do it. But the other thing is, we have, including the Trump administration, but also the previous governor, disparaging the judiciary. If you're a well-respected attorney in the private sector, and you might want to be a judge, but you think, who needs it? Because the judiciary has been subject to attacks, and that's actually ramping up right now, that subject to attacks. And it's my understanding from talking to some of the people in the legal community, and Serge would know more about this, but they're opting out for these memorandums as opposed to formal opinions, which then doesn't give lawyers what they need, which is established law to guide lawyers through, making law in New Mexico. And you said it best at the beginning. The people who can weather the delays, it benefits them. The people who need opinions and need it to move ahead, maybe going to the Supreme Court, those are the people. Years go by, people forget, things can happen. So I think there's multiple factors, including judicial salaries and staff salaries, but I think there's a lot of things in the judiciary. The previous governor didn't want to fund the judiciary,
Right.
and that put us in in more dire circumstances.
That's right. Dan, the upshot for victims of the system, if you really want to think about it that way, it's a real difficulty. The story in Searchlight opened with the case of a young man.
Lee County.
In Lee County, exactly. He's been in jail for 10 months waiting for a decision on his appeal for a murder charge. Just an incredible lack of inertia, of movement to get some things going. And it goes down from there. I mean, anything that, as Serge mentioned, you can appeal a lot of different things out there that you've got to have some clarity on fairly quickly to get your life moving again. You can't wait,
So there's 10 judges. If there's 450 backlog cases, sounds like they should each take 45.
Right.
You might have to work weekends, might have to work a little overtime. In the real world, when you're not working as a judge that gets to come in, sit at the bench, and then dictate everything to the staff, you got to do the job. You got to get the job done. When you take the job and you say, well, I didn't understand how all of this reading and all the stuff that goes with it, it's an insane process. And I got to agree. I mean, these cases are unbelievably important because these are people who are saying, I was wrong. I was wronged by the system.
That's right.
And so if we can't figure out a way to address this. Now, I will also say there's got to be some, look, maybe I'm not the right guy for the job, but, has anybody approached the law school? Have we divided these cases into hard and easy and said, hey, look, can we have the law school go through, utilize some of these students to go through some of the easy cases, and let's give us some first glance, a prima facie look at this stuff that we can turn around and say, now let's go ahead and reread.
Is that constitutional? Would that work, something like that? It's a great idea. It's interesting, but does it work in the real legal world?
I don't know about the constitutionality or legality of that. I mean, I know it would be probably controversial to have law students weighing in on appellate matters.
Well, especially when you've got.
There's another element to what happens to judges. They get appointed, and they have to run.
Well,
They go through judicial selection. And many times judges are not really political people. They have to become political people. And then they're running. Of course, they can't talk about anything they may have to rule on.
That's right.
And they don't realize and then they're judging, they're running, they're going to have to read their opinions at night, they're going to have to figure out that whole schedule.
Here's what gets me. There are a lot of people out there, I have to imagine, are fully innocent. Just absolutely fully innocent, and they know it. That's why they've appealed.
The numbers tell you that.
Right? Exactly.
If it was a perfect world, right? The number what's the, Serge, you would know. I mean, there's a percentage out there that you can say, look, if you have 100 cases, 4% of them are going to be wrong, right? I mean, just human nature plays in. So, I mean, just without any tilting of the scales, 4%. So if you look at that 450 backlog, you're talking 12 people. There's 12 or 13 people without us even talking about it that are in the wrong place for the wrong things, and they're still sitting there.
That's right. That's right. You know, that idea, is it, by the way, on another one of Dan's points, is it a panel that looks at these things? Can you actually divvy these things up individually, or how does
So
that?
they divide, as I understand it, they divide, each case gets assigned to a particular judge, and they are all assigned, to do X number of cases. I think right now they're trying to do 4 cases a month, which sounds like easy work if you can get it, but it's actually, it's challenging to do that because of all the reading, the understanding of law, the research, and the writing of these opinions. And so, it's apportioned out per judge. But some of the judges have more experience.
Well, and remember also,
and are better
you
than
asked
others
about
at that.
the law school. You have the students that apply for working for the judges. It's not an internship. It is an internship, but it's called something else. When you clerkship, they get the clerkship, and that's that's theoretically who's looking at this stuff first. So I mean, I don't know why we couldn't be taking our second and third year law school students and saying, look, we've divided them into easy and hard. Let's work and let's give these guys some real time case experience working on the easy stuff. But I mean, and I'm not saying that we should mandate that, right? We got to get with the law school and say, does this work? I mean, I would say this, and all deference to my friend Serge, who I think is a great guy, and I appreciate what he does. In New Mexico, we also have a state-funded law school. So I mean, it's not like we're telling people, hey, all this private money came in and runs the law school, and you're not telling us what to do. We have a state-funded law school. So I mean, I think there's an opportunity that we could be at the leading edge and say, look, if you come here, you're going to get more time before you even get to clerk for someone. You're going to get to work on real cases. Your second year of law school.
The other thing, this is down all the way down the system.
Right. That's
Starting at Metro, District, and in small communities, they're not even some attorneys in really small communities.
Oh, wow.
And people have to travel, but they have to have judges from around those
My
communities.
daughter got a speeding
So
ticket
that-
in
Encino.
no, not Encino, over by Moriarty. Estancia.
Estancia.
And she said she didn't speed. She did, by the way, but she claimed she didn't. And so we went to the hearing. The judge didn't have hours until it started at 5:30 p.m.
Oh, wow.
So we were scheduled like at 7 o'clock. Funny thing, I know we got to go. Funny thing was, she gets up there, the judge says to her, he comes in, he has camouflage pants on and a T-shirt. He ran like the hardware store. And he says to I said, Hannah, just plead no contest. And you've never had a ticket before. So she gets up there, and the judge says, no contest. She goes, guilty. And he goes, no, I think you mean no contest. Guilty. And she starts sweating, and the judge goes, hold on a second. And my daughter goes, guilty. And I yell from the back, no contest, Hannah. Guilty. And the judge was like, let's take a break for a second. And I was like, I got so nervous, I didn't know what to say.
This is why the appeals court of appeals is asking for $6.8 more million to solve these problems. We'll take a breather. We fill our water. Dan's going to take a breath and be back in a moment to talk about homelessness and how cities here in New Mexico are responding to it.